Welcome to the Evans Legacy Financial Podcast, where real people have real conversations about money, mindset, and making moves. I'm your host, Jake Evans, and this show isn't about fluff or hype. It's about educating our community, sharing stories, and giving you the tools to make better decisions in business and in life. Let's dive in. Good morning, everyone, and today my guest is Richelle Murphy. Richelle, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm so glad you came in because you got a lot going on in your life and have been in the past few years. And, you know, you're a leading professional, 25 years of experience, community champion, an advocate for recovery, and the list goes on. You know, you and I have been friends for a long time, and we've watched each other grow throughout the years and been through hard times, been through good times, and we just keep trudging through it. So, you know, today's conversation is going to be about resilience, purpose, helping others find home, not just a home, but home, literally and spiritually. So, Richelle, my first question for you is, how did you get started in the lending industry?
It was a total fluke. I was actually going to school to be a nutritionist, and Dean and I had just started seeing each other, and he was wanting to buy. And one day he asked if I would drop his loan package off. And I walked into a company, and the phone was ringing off the hook. There was no one at the front desk. And for whatever reason on that day, I walked behind that desk and answered the phone and took a message, and the owner walked out, and I said, hey, so-and-so would like an update on their loan file. And he stood there with his mouth open and asked if I would like to start working there. And I started 2 days later as a receptionist, and 2 weeks later their processor walked out, and I learned to process, and that started this deep dive into the world of lending. And I have just taken every class that's been available, gotten into underwriting and funding and doctoring and the whole gamut, and then went back to school, got a master's degree, and got into the operations side of management, and then added in my originator's license and my real estate license.
So it all started by you being bold and stepping out and just walking behind that desk. See, that's what a lot of this show is about, is finding that in you. Finding that, my listeners, is finding that in you to be able to speak up, have a voice, do something courageous, scary, and never know the outcome. You know what I mean? So I never knew that about you. I never knew that you just walked behind a desk. And It's like going into Stuart Title and walking behind the desk and answering the phone.
You probably get thrown out nowadays.
Probably. So what has changed in the mortgage world over the last 25 years, and what stayed the same? Let's start with the first half of that. What has changed?
Guidelines are always changing. People have changed. You used to plan, take some time to, prepare to buy a home with a starter home and work up to your dream home. And it seems like everyone wants their dream home now. Then when we went through where you didn't have to have a lot of documentation, sometimes it's a struggle to get people to want to give the paperwork because it was so easy for a long time. And back when I started, we were using fax machines and mail, so it was a lot slower process, and triplicate paper and
carbon
typewriters,
copies.
all those things. So technology has made things quicker. There's not a lot of downtime.
And you didn't even have couriers back then to be able to shuffle. They had to come in, or you had to mail it.
We did regular mail, and would wait a couple weeks for verifications to come back and things like that.
Yeah, see, this new generation has no idea what they missed out on, right? Or how good they have it, right? So what stayed the same for you?
The pride of ownership, getting to walk people through that process when they think there's no way to get there, and making lifelong friendships along the way. I mean, I'm not a one and done kind of person, so when I get to help someone, I want to be involved in their life and check up with them and
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. And that's something that we have to do in any of the business in the industry, in real estate and finance, and
Right.
Even my notary business, it's the same way. I stay in touch with my clients, my old clients, for the last 6 years, maybe not in their life constantly, but they're always getting a note from me, how you doing or whatever. So that's really important.
It is.
And I'll give you an example why. We have a client together, and she called me like 4 months ago, and she was my old notary client. Says, hey, I'm thinking of selling my house. I've been getting your emails. What do I need to do? Because I want to get out of here and get to a bigger home. And it's not just about the sales, because now she's got COVID. We're helping her out. We'll drop food off at the door, whatever. Right. We're friends. She's not just my client. She's a friend of mine. And so it's just, I love how we can do that. And I've seen you do that too. Yeah. And we become friends.
Exactly.
So what drives your passion for helping people become a homeowner?
I think it's just internal. I was an athlete growing up. I don't shy away from hard things. In fact, I love a challenge and to help people face things. When we don't understand something and we get into fear, there's a tendency to just, it can't happen. I can't see a way, and we shut down. And I like to walk alongside people and show them, you might not be ready today, but we can find a way for you to get there.
Right. I agree 100%. So how do you balance compassion with the technical side of lending? That's a hard one for me, so I want to hear it.
That's a very hard one for me, because I tend to overcare, and you have to allow people to step in and not do things for you. So sometimes there's some difficult conversations, like I can help you with this, but I can't do this for you. That's always been difficult. I would, jump in and help people to my detriment, give away, if they're short on clothes, I give away,
Yeah, no, I get it. So. And I think that you said a couple of words there, the hard conversation, and I have, in my years and the mentors that I've had, one of those things that stuck with me is that we have to be willing to have the hard conversations in any aspect of our lives, right. Business, personal, whatever. We have to be able to step in and have those hard conversations. And I have had, more often than not, people thank me for telling them what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear.
Exactly.
So, and that kind of segues into the next part of our discussion, a life in recovery. So you've been sober, and I don't know the exact number, so I just threw out there over 25 years. I know that, right?
I just hit 30 years.
Just hit 30 years. And what inspired your recovery journey? I'm sure there was
some about dragging your knuckles on the, just out of answers. Couldn't do it anymore. Just tired of being sick and tired, as we say, and tired of trying to run the show. I needed God to step in and change my thoughts and my perspective, and some of the habits, that were keeping me from being successful and happy and having joy in my life.
So my question, I'm going to go back to the beginning here where you answered that phone. Were you sober when you answered that phone?
Yes,
I was. Were. Okay. And that's what happens. Because I too have been, coming up on 14 years, and I know how things have changed for me to be able just to be, I've walked up and answered phones before. I'm the guy who gets up at a restaurant if my water's low and nobody's there or they're too busy. I'm not mad, but I'm going to go get water. I'm going to go grab the pitcher, and I've actually served a couple other tables while I'm at it. So, how has sobriety impacted your career, your relationships, and really your mission in life?
I think sobriety has given me a connection point with people. I can see when people are struggling, or maybe they're not telling you the whole truth. A lot of times, people don't want to tell the truth about where they are financially or what their credit looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to share personal things with people and show that I'm not sitting in judgment. Here's what has happened in my life, and here's how I corrected it. And being open with my life allows people to kind of take a deep breath and get real. Mm-hmm. Because we have to get real.
We have to get real. Yeah, I've noticed something. I had a guy one time tell me that, I was doing a signing, and the guy they wanted a copy of his Social Security card. Well, I'm not giving you that. I'm there's so much fraud out there. I says, I'm an officer of the state to prevent fraud. So the very person that you want to give it to would be me. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people don't know that our credentials, our license, and in recovery for you and me, we're not willing to put our whole career and our future on the line for somebody's, for doing something that we shouldn't be doing. We're bound by so many different, you've got credentials, more than one. I've got 3 right now. And it's like every single one of those has its own code of ethics. So we're double, triple identified in these code of ethics. You know what I'm saying? So we have to do it. So people, I want people to know that when you're going into a situation where you've got a lender or a notary or a realtor, they're bound by a code of ethics. And, most of the time they're already trusted. You already know them if you're going to be in business with them. Right. So my next question, in the tough seasons, and I'm going to talk about, the loss of your husband, how did your recovery tools support you?
It was my absolute go-to. We learn so many things in recovery, and those naturally kicked in to talk about what was going on, to not hide from the pain, to not mask the pain, to get outside grief help. And again, to use it as a connecting point. God has lined more people up in my life in, the mortgage industry, people that have lost a spouse, and the fear and all the things you have to walk through.
Well, our mutual client, she just lost her husband earlier this year, and that's tragic.
It is. But learning to put one foot in front of the other every single day, trusting God. I mean, if I didn't have God in my life, I wouldn't have made one day. And looking for the gratitude in things. There's always something to be grateful, even in the loss. You start looking at the good times, and it can always be worse.
And there's a portion that you and I are very familiar with, where it says the more you focus on the problem, the bigger the problem gets, and the more you focus on the solution, the bigger the solution gets. So we focus, and I get it, we focus on the good, and Dean was a great man. He was, him and I did business together, and I love you guys, and I know how that works for us to be able to just put, like you said, put one foot in front of the other. So what would you say to someone who's newly sober, has had that loss, thinking about taking that first step towards, not just recovery, but a new life?
Trust the process. Surround yourself with people who have that experience. There's so many people that want to give advice out there who haven't walked that path. And you can't imagine what you don't know. Like, I always thought, I'm tough, I can handle anything. I have never had anything drop me to my knees like that. And there's so many facets. Every single day you're reliving part of your loss. And people say time heals. Time doesn't heal. Time changes perspective, and you get stronger.
I like that.
And you can carry it better. But every day you still wake up to that person is not there, what you thought your life was going to be. And for me lately, it's been reliving the little arguments we had about life's important things, insurance, life insurance, because he never wanted to talk about those things. So part of my path has been to live through those decisions that didn't get made, and how much harder my path has had to be because those were things that we just didn't talk about.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I get that. It's well, I won't say any more about that. You guys, you have, no, I will. It's the tools that we have now are built from our hurts, are built from our pain, and that allows us, and I see I understand the gratitude out of something like the death of a husband, or my brother when he died at 23. I look at that and I turned around. I was resentful because he had, traveled Europe and got a 66 Mustang on his 16th birthday and all this. And I was living on the streets, but then I turned it around after I got sober, and I says, he got to experience all those things. And I don't care if I didn't, he did. And that's the difference in the perspective right there.
For sure.
Yeah. So tell us about your love for horses, the outdoors. How has that grounded you, or how does that ground you?
So again, we neither of us were raised around horses. We were
Really?
both athletes. He actually was a surfer. He was from LA. And
I could see that.
When we moved out to the country, I had a barn.
Now let me just say this. Dean was this big, gruff, cowboy hat wearing, wrinkles, sun wrinkled guy, just a big man. And now you're telling me he was a surfer? I'm like, dude, no way.
a surfer and an athlete. And we bought the home out in the country, and he said, what do you think about getting some horses? And I was like, yeah, sounds good. And he showed up with 2 broken down horses the next day. Neither of us knew how to feed them, how to saddle them. In fact, we pooled our money to buy 1 saddle, and then we would watch each other ride. And it was just chaos. So
your own little equestrian school, internal school. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. I like that. So that's so again, now, and you grew to love that.
We grew to love it, and we were welcomed into a wonderful community of men and women that rode and that kind of took us under their wing, and probably we gave them a lot to laugh about and shake their heads about, right. Because but it was fun. Noobs. It was fun. We ended up getting married on horseback in
Wow.
Pismo, and trail riding and team pinning and sorting, and
Wow. And so the last part of that was, how has that grounded you?
There's something about being outside in nature and with animals that just allow you to take that deep breath and exhale, and trusting this big 800 to 1,500 pound animal with your life, because they can do what they want. And I learned if I had an attitude getting on that animal, I was probably not staying on that animal very long, and they weren't having it. So, and you learn to calm your fears, because they can feel all of it.
Wow. Okay. So my experience with it was, I wanted to go on a Grand Canyon ride years ago, right? But they didn't use horses. They used mules, because mules, you probably notice mules, their eyes are on the side of their head rather than a horse being on the front. The horse can only see its 2 front hooves. A mule can see all 4, so they're more sure-footed. But I had to learn to trust, and because I was a big guy, they put me on their mule that they use for carrying pack and stuff like that carries the weight. Right. And I could only do a half-a-day trip. But I learned to trust that animal with my life, because I'm looking down a 1,000-foot cliff and him kicking rocks off of it as he goes down the trail, and I'm like, okay, Yeah, I learned to highly, highly respect the animal. And you're right. If you don't have a good attitude, because there's a couple of times where I either got scared or I got kind of frustrated, and it turned around and bit my foot.
Yeah. I got so I was working on my thesis for my master's, and so I hadn't ridden in a couple months, and Dean said, "Oh, let's go to the lake." And it's like, I already knew this was not going to be good. I hadn't even done anything other than throw feed to my horse. And we went to the lake to ride, and I got too comfortable. We're almost at the end of the ride, and my feet are out of the stirrups, and that horse dropped his head and bucked me off right there. And I knew in that instant, that's like, how dare you come just for your pleasure? You haven't paid me any mind, and now I'm supposed to perform for you. And oh yeah, that was not fun.
Wow. So we talk about community. So what role has your community or that community or any of your community played in your healing and your success?
Oh, there's so many different communities.
Well, you've got your horse, your equestrian community. You've got your business community. You've got your recovery community. You've got all these. So how are they kind of, I mean, and some of those are intermingled. I mean, you and I, some of those are intermingled.
They're really all intermingled. The sad truth about losing a spouse is you don't just lose them. I pretty much have lost all of our couple friends because I'm not a couple anymore. And so the horse community, I'm really not a part of. And at the 3-year mark, I started letting go of the animals because it was just too much for me to take care of. I mean, I still talk to people off and on, but I'm not in their world anymore. I kind of watch from afar. The recovery community, I'm involved daily, and that's kind of morphed into now I have a Bible study community and a church community, and my walk has changed. I'm going deeper in spiritual aspects and looking, to continue to get closer to God and my kids and my grandkids.
And that's important. That's really important. So I hear a lot of grit in your story. So what does grit mean to you, and how has it shaped your story?
I do not give up no matter what. I can have body parts falling off, but I think that's the athlete in me. I always tried to be the last man standing. And that perspective has changed a little spiritually because I have to put God first and come underneath it. I just get on my knees every day and, ask God to direct my thoughts, my words, my actions to be the best person I can be. And I tell him I'm willing to go through whatever pain I have to get where you want me to be. And for me, change has come through very painful times because I am so stubborn that I don't learn any other way. If it's easy, I will continue to direct and guide my life. When it gets hard, God uses that pain to drive me closer to him.
And that's why I think we call each other family, because I'm the same way.
I mean, I'd love to say that, no, God has to pound.
So when I'm going to share a bit, because this kind of speaks about that, because when I got my real estate license, I went and took my test. I went down, they fold it in half and they staple it and they give it to you and they say, go down, don't read this here, go downstairs.
Right.
And I go downstairs and I read it and it says, congratulations, you passed your real estate exam. The next sentence was, however, it's been given to review because of right? And I'm like, so I called, my mom is my sounding board, so I called her and I talked to her for a minute, and she goes, son, has anything you've ever done in your life been easy? And she's right. And I hear that too. Nothing we've ever done has come easy, because sometimes we want to do it our own way, and then God comes and slaps us on the back of the head and says, are you ready to listen now?
For sure.
So that's, I get that. So in your experience, and this is a twofold thing here. What makes someone truly ready to become a homeowner?
When it's a priority. When they're ready to face maybe their past. I mean, I work with a lot of people that in our recovery community. So it's about transparency. It's about not shying away from those hard topics. Because when we pull the credit, we see it. So, but they have to be ready to prioritize. Do you want all the lattes, or do you want to put a few bucks in the bank for a down payment? Because a lot of people, I mean, lending was so easy for so long that people just walked in and you didn't have to have down payments. Every down payment assistance program was available. So people, I don't think they're necessarily thinking, all right, have I looked at my credit? Have I paid my bills on time? Do I have money in the bank? Am I in a job that I've been longer than 2 weeks? Or do I have 20 job changes? I see a lot of people get angry when you talk about having stable, work history, putting money in the bank, showing that you have paid your bills. And those are uncomfortable conversations to have. But if you're going to own a home and keep that home, we have to talk about
some of those hard questions.
Some of those
hard conversations. Yeah.
And I don't like to max people out on their prequel, because if anything in life changes, for me, I want to be able to sleep at night. I'm not going to put someone that they're going to be teetering, and then 2 weeks later they lose their job or whatever, and then they lose their home.
Yeah. No, I get it. So the same question goes to what truly, in your experience, what truly makes someone ready to get sober. I think a lot of that is similar, because you said when it's a priority. When
it's a priority. When you're done with the train wrecks, when you're done blaming other people. Same with home, and
that goes in the same with home ownership. When you're done blaming other people for you not owning a home, you're ready. When you're done blaming other people for your wreck in your life, your loss of the job and all that. Right. I mean, and it's funny because I didn't put that get sober part until I asked the question, and then you answered that first part, and I'm like, pretty much the same thing. So homeownership is a complete life change.
It is.
In the same way that sobriety is a complete life change, because we got to do things differently, because there's different responsibilities. We're held to a higher standard. We've got, and
more responsibilities. It's not just buy the home; it's take care of the home.
Yep. Yep. So when people, now we're going to talk about legacy and impact. Okay, so when people think of Richelle Murphy, what do you hope they remember?
I am honest to a fault. I am a huge supporter of people who try. And I'm a huge supporter of people that refuse to give up.
People who have grit.
People who have grit.
Okay, nice. What legacy are you working to leave behind, both professionally and personally?
To show that no matter what life throws at you, if we put God first, we can make it through anything. To live honest, the biggest thing for me since losing Dean is to conduct myself in a manner that was consistent with the person I was when we were married. And I have not deviated from who I am. I didn't go out when he died and look for people to date. I dug into the grief process, and I looked within, and I grew, and I worked on relationships in my family and work and my career and, sponsees and things like that, to truly heal. Mm-hmm. And I haven't taken any shortcuts. I think if Dean could see me today, he would be proud. I'm still the same person mm-hmm. that he knew.
And you are. And I watch it because I remember meeting you, I think it was a meeting on a Monday night, and it was you and Kim. Mm-hmm. Kim, she moved back to Pittsburgh, but Kim, I remember you two because some of the things that you said, and then I watched. I sat back and I watched. I'm like, who are these people, And I was fresh. I was newly sober, mm-hmm. and I've watched the growth. And then after Dean passed, you're right. You haven't changed. Mm-hmm. There's nothing about you, man. You've gone through tough times. Mm-hmm. We've had conversations, but
the core hasn't changed.
Exactly.
I have certainly changed and grown. Right. And I think I've gotten softer in the process because I have not always been the easiest person to approach, because that athletic mentality, if you're not going to do it, get out of my way. Mm-hmm. I have softened. Something about tears, uncontrollable tears, at some point start to soften. And I've allowed people to see my vulnerability, which I was never good at. Mm. I will show you tough and strong. Mm-hmm. And in the process of him dying, there was no stopping that train of emotions that was coming. Mm-hmm. So
get it. So do you have any final thoughts for our listeners who are facing their own uphill climb, whether recovery, business, or life? But just shout out to someone, and the last thing you want them to hear from you.
Get quiet. If you're telling yourself the truth. If you're ready for any kind of life change, it can happen. Trust in God. Find people that have walked the path that you are wanting to, and then follow them. Allow them into your world and let them walk beside you. And it doesn't matter what that is. We learn from people who have walked the path. I don't listen to people that give advice. I listen to people who have the actual experience of what I'm facing. And in that, God blesses me with richer friendships mm-hmm. and new friendships. And that's, when you're ready, you're ready.
Yeah. We're coming to the end of the show, but I want to thank you for your honesty, your heart, and your grit. You're an amazing woman, and I love you. And I would encourage listeners, to share this podcast, get it out there, because there's a story here that maybe Richelle can tell to someone that to your audience. Because right now, this is my audience. If somebody out there has been touched by this, send it, share it, comment, like. If you want to get a hold of Richelle, leave a comment. I'll make sure she gets it. Let's see. I think that's about it for today. I think that, we've talked about strength and what it takes to build something meaningful from the ground up. We've talked about, never give up, putting God first. Tell yourself the truth and get quiet. I think that's really, really important. And if we can start doing that today, I guarantee you your world will change. So, Richelle, thank you again for coming in. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning into the Evans Legacy Financial Podcast. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more real conversations that move the needle in life and business. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and never stop chasing what matters.